what attracted my attention to go for it. And from the master that I finished, I have been going to the CE conference yearly, I think. Yeah.
And full disclosure, Ellen is a past guest of our show, so she can maybe talk from her personal experience as well. Emily, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. I am an alumni of the Creativity Master's degree. I graduated in 2018. And I currently use all the things that I learned in that program. I'm a social worker in leadership roles in child welfare. And so I come to the conference to keep up on what's going on in the field.
That's very exciting. And you being a graduate also makes you a potential future guest if that's something of interest to you. So let's just get started. And again, we'll welcome anyone that comes in after we start moving through this. And please, any questions you have as they come up, don't be shy. You can either just raise your hand or talk out loud or put it in the chat. Want to take it away, Kim?
Great. So I just want to start with introducing myself. I am the founder of Inspired Outcomes Now, also a graduate, as both of you are as well, of the Center for Applied Imagination. And as part of that journey, I learned about appreciative inquiry from Dr. Cabra, and that became the subject of my master's degree. And now I use it extensively along with creativity in all my work. And my work revolves around brand strategies, strategic planning, and turnkey websites. Work with a lot of startups. Hi, welcome, Christian.
Hi,
Hello.
Christian.
Happy
How
you're
are you?
part of our group.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Would you just, we just all are introducing ourselves. Could you just tell us where you are and your relation to the program and CEE?
Yeah, I'm at the University of Montana, and I actually got a closer relationship, especially online, actually right before, but then especially during the pandemic with the CE, and I followed the development of the PhD or the doctoral program, which is now up and running, and that was really a great achievement. So I'm really excited about the future, especially for the center.
Fantastic. And we also have a future attendee of the PhD program in our friend Ellen Pratt. So I'll go into introduce myself, and we're welcoming our friend Kristen here, who was doing everything she could to come and join us. And guess what, Christian? I'm recording this session. I'm Anthony Billoni. I'm a founder of my consulting practice, Apex Leader Growth. Um, and in fact, in just about a month, we will have been in business 5 years. I'm very excited about that. And I am a Center for Applied Imagination graduate of 2001, so just a couple weeks ago. And I'm proud. I've been a continuing member of the faculty of the Creative Problem Solving Institute, which is actually how I found the center. I came to the institute beginning around 1995 and have been a steady supporter, program leader, et cetera, et cetera. And with my good friend Kristen, we've caused a few fracases and upgrades and things like that over the years. And I'm proud to say that I was noted as their distinguished leader last year, and I also have got a master facilitator credential from Creative Education Foundation. An accredited career level coach from a program led by two of the world's best known coaches, David Goldsmith and David Peterson, from the program Accelerating Coaching Excellence. Um, and I'm a mentor for conscious entrepreneurs at a Shiftco Business Growth, Conscious Business Growth program that Kim McKernan and I are both part of. So that's our background, and we keep welcoming people to join us. Um, Kristen, do you want to just quickly give a little bit of where you are and what brought you here today?
Me?
Yep.
Um, I'm always a fan of yours, so I tend to follow you around a bit, Tony. Uh, the Well, actually, what kind of I'm grateful that you guys are doing this session. For me, I was one of the people that Tony had interviewed, and it was an amazing experience. Just to kind of share the story, be heard, and I've really enjoyed hearing other people's stories and their journey in this space. So I thought, you know, other people would enjoy that too.
Thank you. And we also have Veronica joining us. So if you could quickly, Veronica, tell us where you are and what brought you to CE today.
Hi, Tony. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for your
I
session. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wrapped my session. So for those of you who are going to watch some of the recordings, that was the creative intelligence session in the first block. I'm in Philadelphia, and though I don't have the formal academic creativity pedigree that some of the other participants have, I have the practitioner pathway that I bring to it and combine it with my own research and creativity, emotional intelligence, organizational interventions. And I'm a certified executive coach, board certified coach, master facilitator as well. And I guess, Tony, you and I have a connection through Marshall Goldsmith. I'm a
I'm
member.
actually David Goldsmith, not
Oh, David
Marshall.
Goldsmith. Okay, so
Can you
different,
believe
different
there's
great
two great
coach.
coaches named
Two great
Goldsmith?
coaches with the Goldsmith name.
How about that? And your firm is called Goldfinch, which is really, really cute
Yeah,
or
well, yeah,
sweet. Very
Goldfinch,
nice.
it's the state bird of New Jersey where I was born. So,
Ah,
yeah.
even better. Well, now that we all know each other, let's jump right in.
So we're going to cover an overview of the podcast and just a little of the stats of what we've accomplished since we began 56 episodes ago. And then we want to like really step back and share with you what we've learned from speaking with 56, or actually more than that, creative leaders. We want to share a little bit about some of our favorite episodes, and those of you who participated, we'd love to hear from you as well. And of course, there's time for Q&A. So let's start with the origin story of how we got started. And the goal really was to capture the stories of folks such as yourself who are out there applying the concepts of creativity, creative problem solving, and related concepts as well of emotional intelligence, appreciative inquiry, some of these backgrounds that we all work with. And the goal was really, there were a lot of resources on the academic side, but we wanted to tell the story of how are people using it? What are the successes? So our goal was really to be application focused. And Tony and I became involved with the center to how can we activate alumni from the Center of Applied Imagination? And Tony was passionate about this. I also think there's a lot of benefit for that. So one of the ideas that came out of a session was to start a podcast. And so Tony and I talked about it, and I had wanted to do a podcast. So I said, okay, let's do it. We started in person at the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, has a wonderful resource, and they taught us how to record it and helped us to learn. My husband is a professional jazz musician. He wrote the opening and closing music. So we had what we needed to get started, but then the pandemic happened. Right? So Tony, I'll let you fill in from there.
Absolutely. I think we made our first two episodes sitting in this beautiful studio that the local library put together. But as Kim said, the pandemic happened, and we all just looked at each other, Kim and I, and said, we can keep this going. And since her husband has not only a music experience, but recording experience, he actually made a ad hoc studio in their home. and that became the command center for the recording of the podcast. And from that day on, I've dialed into our Zoom, and our guests have dialed into our Zoom from literally all over the world. And um, Kim secures and manages the master recording of it. I'll take the recording of it and um, then edit it. All the calls, the shows have been plus or minus 30-ish minutes for no particular reason, but it just seems to be a sweet spot. And then I drop in the Jerry's music on the front and back. And I think one of the things this is a sidebar I'm especially proud of, and we all know Roger, and Roger's kind of like one of the best known creativity experts coming out of our center. And he's been on a lot of podcasts over the years, and Roger has made a point to tell us very specifically that we're the best podcast he was ever on. And we know, Roger, that he's not one with praise like that very easily and often. So I think part of the secret sauce in doing that, and those of you that have been on our show that are on this session today will remember, is that we always have what we call a green room conversation ahead of the actual recording. And I got to put you on the spot, Kristen. She said no to me several times because she goes, I have nothing to say. I said, well, that's not true. And then I'll get too nervous. I said, that's not going to be true either because we're going to have this easing in conversation where we learn more about each other. You learn more about us, and it's we all talk the same language, so we're just really understanding what's pertinent to you in your current world and how creativity feeds into that. So once we get through that, we'll customize a set of questions. You get to see it, the guest gets to see it. So it just goes really, really well in that it's three professionals having a really great conversation. And that's what others that have listened in have told us is that it just comes off as a really strong read on what's great about our profession.
So for those of you who may not be close to the center, that's Dr. Roger Firestein, who Tony was referring to. So Tony, you want to walk us through the
Yeah,
stats a little bit?
absolutely. We looked over up to the more recent shows, and as you see, there were a couple times where we've had more than one guest on the show, and we'll get into one really unique case as my favorite later. But some of them have been couples where they've been generational, where a mother and a son joined us, and we've had a few married couples join us, which has been really lovely. Tim and Laura Swatowski, Blair Miller and Sarah. Oh God,
Server.
Sarah Thurber. So how it broke down in the stats from who joined us was about 60-40 female to male. And the locale, I guess just through force of where we are in the world, about 70% have come from the United States. But Ellen is here from Netherlands. We found people in Europe, people in Central and South America, Asia, and even a guest in Australia. And the professions, it might be obvious. Nearly half found their way into consulting and facilitating. And then another 30% fell into education because the program itself has been always open to the education program at Buffalo State as well. But even with that, we have others in several varied fields, including software design, advertising, artists, fashion, food, government and military, and then also a nice chunk in healthcare.
So we have a discussion question that we wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Those of you who are affiliated with the center, um, any ideas you have for how you would like to see engagement with the center's alum community and students?
And while you're thinking of an answer, I would also say if you have gone through the center and you are interested in being a guest, please put your email in the chat.
Or if you know people who would be interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, good point, Kristen. Yeah.
Or any questions of what you've heard up to now about what we're doing?
Well, I'm kind of curious about, what are some of the patterns, the trends, that, you've talked to so many different people now. Are there some themes that are emerging as we look toward the future, things like that?
You must have been looking at the
Absolutely.
script. We're going to get right
Yeah.
into that.
Okay, sorry.
You teed us up very
That was my
nicely,
anticipation.
Kristen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna now walk you through those themes, and then maybe we'll have more of a discussion after that.
Yeah. So, Tony, you want to kick us off with the first theme you found?
Yeah. I often say to people that this is among the highlights of my month to do this. And I guess what it is as the fellow who kicked us off today, and you were talking about it too, Veronica, about specifically noting joy in your life. And the thing to me is to hear the positivity that every guest carries around with them, um, as a person that has gone through this process. And I liken it a lot to what I got from my mentor, Dr. Mary Murdoch, and also from her mentor and my person that I had the great privilege to work with, Dr. Sid Parnes, of being ending up this program in the creative stance that I'm always ready to defer judgment and always ready to seek a positive outcome. So the positivity of our guests is a beautiful theme.
Yeah, and I actually wrote a post on this. I mean, when we first started, it to me, I was giving back to the creativity community with this work, but I have gotten so much more than I have given because I have the chance to speak with incredible experts. And when you think about the power of our community and the work being done, we've got to tell these stories. And not only are we telling them, they are going to be in perpetuity available, right? That their stories will be carried on and inspire students who are currently studying as well. So this importance of telling the story has maintained, and every single one is unique and important.
And you know, I don't know, maybe someone that's not in the field would listen in on this, and some of it might sound like bragging, but we're all in it. And this third point about the high passion, um, is people can't help but talk about the goodness that they carry around with them, in their successes, carrying the message of creativity beyond whether it's professional or not, or how they've done something in their own life that was life-changing. I mean, one guest talked about how they managed their divorce, how they managed to pack up their home and move in what might have taken months into days. That's the sort of things that, one of my personal stories was years ago in buying a home. My then wife and I made a list of all the things we wanted in a new home, and I don't know what happened to that list, but somehow in unpacking in the home we ended up in, I found that list, and guess what? 9 out of 10 things on that list I could check off and say we did it, and that goes back to Sid's idea of writing things down, and applying positive energy. I am covering the fourth point right now. How the creativity seamlessly blended into folks and guests' life and work.
The other thing which really stands out as you think about the global community who we have had the privilege of hosting is the impact they are having on all aspects, from healthcare, creating systemic change in so many professions, and in general, this attention to we don't have to just exist with problems. There are tools to resolve them. There are tools to make the world better, is a piece of every single story we've heard.
I wonder, Ellen, could we put you on the spot because you have a really powerful story about how you brought creativity into uh, the healthcare systems that you are part of. Would you care to talk a little bit about that?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I work in the Netherlands as a medical doctor as an anesthesiologist intensivist at a rather big hospital. So I have also educational tasks, but also working as a medical doctor in the ICU. And my daily job is solving complex problems. That's my job. So that's why creativity is rather important, I think. And well-being is also a big issue nowadays because a lot of residents and interns have quite some problem with well-being. They have problem with retention of staff, that sort of thing. So for me, using creativity for innovation, problem solving, but also using it for better well-being, retention of staff is quite important, and making a system for that in our organization to improve it and to make it our superpower is my thing for the future, my vision. So that's where I'm motivated for. It's what you told also. I'm really motivated to help others and to teach them how to do this, because it's not like what we are most are used in my organization is that you do something, then you have an outcome, but that's not how the world works. So making that change in thinking and how you can do that and being a role model for that is what I do daily.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Ellen, that is something we heard a lot, that even if people didn't start out as teachers, they quickly realized it wasn't enough just to do. You have to, whoever you work with, you also have to teach. So I think
it's quite interesting because my first activities when I was like 10, 15 were educational things. I teach a lot of other kids from other parents around in quite some different stuff, but that was my primary motivation, I think.
nice. Great. So we also wanted to share some of our favorite episodes, and there's some folks on. So this is not to say yours is not our favorite, Kristen and Ellen.
Oh no, I don't even listen to my own. I wanted to see these.
Great. So Tony, tell us about
Absolutely.
Dr. Cabra.
This still stands out, but as I said, I have warm feelings for every episode, just because of the commiseration with my fellow grads and the power and energy of what we're doing here, which is world changing. But this was really unique and special in that it was actually the only two-part episode we've done, because it not only featured Dr. John Cabra, but a cohort of grad students in the center that accompanied him to Myanmar. And this was well before the incredible upheaval that's going on in that country right now. But in listening to these stories, what we ended up doing was breaking into two episodes because it was John and five or six of these students who had unbelievable life-changing experiences, bringing the creativity training into the situations that were not just sitting in a class and doing it. One person who happened to be a wood carver ended up carving the casket for the person that was considered the Bob Dylan of Myanmar. I mean, like out of nowhere, this came out of this engagement. But even more so was the responses of the families, the children, the adults to what they brought to them was incredibly cathartic. And I still tag it as one of the best examples of the power of creativity, that Sid and Alex brought to the table and has spread throughout the world.
And my favorite is a leader in creativity, Clara Klug, from Mexico. Amazing story of her life as an artist, where she was involved in political intrigue due to the value of her art. And at a very low point in her life, after experiencing, knowing she needed to change her career, she happened to meet our beloved leader, Dr. Puccio, and was exposed to this whole other life surrounding creativity and studying creativity. And she achieved a business at a very high level in Mexico that not only works with some of the top Fortune 500 companies in the world, but also she wrote a book and did a lot of work with very small social activist kind of companies. So her story, and even at this point in her career, was writing the manual on how to have an innovation manager in companies. So a person who lived many aspects of creativity at the highest level. And I encourage you to enjoy her story. And it's very funny too. One of my favorites. She makes you laugh in spite of some of her trials in her life. Remember, she always said, creativity is like sex. Everybody talks about it, but not everybody knows how to do it. So that I think was one of the classic quotes from
Oh my
all
goodness.
of art. So
And she's actually in the CEE today. I saw her on the
Oh,
morning
her
session.
earlier.
So
great.
you may want to search her out and have a quick chat with her if you can find her, if there's any happy hour activity on that.
We'll have to get her to do one next year.
There
Yeah,
you go. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. But we wanted to share a couple of special episodes, but as Tony says, each one tells a very important story. So, and they're timeless. So you can listen to some of the older ones and it's just as valuable as the current.
Well, and I was in Veronica's session, and as you noted, Veronica, we had 8 or 9 people on the call, and 8 or 9 people came up with different configurations of your skills model. Um, and here's the story that's similar to us as what you just did, is we ask all of our guests pretty much the same 6 or 7 questions, but everybody has a different story. And uh, you'll never hear the same story from every single person when we ask them the question, how did you come to find the center? And what are you doing with your degree in the world? And there's some of the most incredible, interesting stories that we've come up with. It's definitely worth to check in and hear some of these tales.
So because we have a body of work now approaching 60, I decided I would see what our friend AI thought of when it analyzed it. So I wanted to kind of share that with you. And the big takeaway, so essentially what I did is put in the link so we could analyze all of the episodes. And it said the podcast consistently emphasizes that creativity is not an abstract concept, but a practical actionable tools for making a positive impact in personal and professional contexts. Great, right? I would agree with this. And we almost take that for granted because we all know that it's not an abstract concept. We know that it's reality and process, and we hear all these great stories. But our podcast is one way to tell the world that, right? To really prove that in over and over again, how powerful it can be. So I wrote a couple of themes that surprised me in this analysis. So while very much a lot of our stories are about balancing creativity with structure, I wouldn't have used that term, right? It's many of the leaders we had work in very large organizations where they have to constantly prove the value of creativity, right? They have to work within hierarchical and corporate structures. So I thought that was quite fascinating. And of course, the topic for a lot of folks today is, of course, intersection of AI and creativity. So as we discuss where is the future going, we've had some fascinating discussions that I think is really taking this to new places.
If I might just jump in for one
Sure,
moment
please
on
do.
that,
Yeah.
I'm going to build on those of you that were in the morning session with Dr. Kaufman, and we all saw that he leaned heavily into some challenges that AI is bringing to us and our communities and our generations, etc. But this is what you're reading on this slide is the distillation of what people said in this 50 or so episodes. So the good news to me, and that's why I asked the question to Dr. Kaufman, if the next generation is completely soaking in AI, will it be harmful? And he said yes. But what you're seeing from this statement is that preserving the human touch and innovation, from my perspective and from the perspective of our guests, is essential to preserving the energy of creative thinking.
So that's not necessarily a surprise from our community. When you think about, we spend so much time on metacognition and thinking about our own thinking. And so I would assume that we would tend to gravitate toward that and see the opportunity versus and know how to minimize the downside.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess.
we're less inclined as a community to be afraid of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's been some very practical examples of how people are using it. Even Erin Habes, who is a fashion designer, talking about how she used AI to help develop some themes for her students to work with, and how effective that was, and encouraged them to use it in their design work. So there's lots of really good examples with how people are, sort of working out a way that does not harm the human side, right, and does add to it.
My own personal examples is I've had times where I've basically told AI, no, you're not, this isn't it. You're failing here, AI. And as we should, we need to be saying those things and saying, look at it from this direction. Look, the whole philosophy of our process. What else? What else? What else? What else? And not take what AI gives us as like, oh, well, it's AI, so it must be something. I'm very skeptical of the first answer I get from AI.
Yeah. Well, and especially when you have knowledge on the topic. If you were a naive user, you might take it at literal truth.
Well, that's going to be the ultimate problem is that the general public is going to accept so as okay because it comes from AI. And Veronica, go ahead.
So my background is right now as a coach, and one thing that is very different between working with a human and working with AI is that when you type in your prompt, AI doesn't question your premise. It doesn't question the story that you're telling.
Yeah.
Where human interaction, somebody might say, well, that's not, I was there, that's not how I experienced it, or what's another way of looking at this, or what if that weren't true? And so the ability to slow down long enough to make sure that you're asking the right question to begin with. AI takes what you put in there and runs with it to, I mean, I don't know if you've been overwhelmed by the response and like how many steps it goes, and it already has like built something for you before you even have a chance to be like, whoa, I didn't agree that that was the right
Yeah,
direction.
I have to step it back sometimes, or you even have to say argue with me, or and you can actually wire the responses because they give me, oh, that's a really powerful way to look at it. And I'm thinking like, really, you're telling me that? Come on, let's just stop that. So yeah, I agree with you, Veronica, but you can you can start to blow it right back to AI. But the strange part about that is that sometimes having an argument with AI is confusing to AI, which isn't really great. But we're kind of a little off track. We can maybe park that and come back to it if we have some time. But go ahead, Kim.
So the other thing that, of course, our podcast is called Creative Flow Thinkers and Change Agents. So the one question we ask everyone is, what is your creative flow? And this alone has been a fascinating exploration that's as unique as the person, right? And many people have never thought about that question before we ask them in the interview. So it isn't something that they maybe have a canned answer or have thought of often. So just going to share a couple and then please add to it, Tony. Um, all of them felt that was an essential part of their personal creativity. And they many of them noted this wasn't really talked a lot in their studies in many cases. So I think bringing it up, people really appreciated that time to reflect on it. And it varied. We heard a lot writing, planning, facilitating, gardening, which is something I could relate to. That's one of mine. Um, but it was also there are many people had rituals that they do to get into a creative flow. And that also was fascinating how over time they can more quickly develop that state that they want to be in.
Yeah, I would only add, and I think the insights you published here are cover the waterfront. And again, I'll just emphasize the variety. If you see here, 5 bullet points of what it varied from was profession, passion, or 4 bullet points around self-trust, thinking, doing so sort of metacognition, if you will, and building rituals to get to it. All of it has, and the beauty was no one said I don't have anything like that. Everybody had something. And that's the other thing. So maybe today, I mean, we have Ellen and Kristen who are on the call, but um, others who have not been on the show, maybe you care if you don't want to put you on the spot, if you feel like it. What is your creative flow?
Any takers?
Veronica typed following my curiosity. Do you want to tell us more?
It's usually where I understand the ritual piece. So I can see lots of different ways to answer your question. So I grabbed onto one that felt the strongest. But the curiosity piece is one of my best ways to get into flow. If I can continue to remain curious and to ask questions about what I'm doing, learning, or exploring, um, time just disappears. And I can look up and realize that maybe I've gone nowhere with it. Maybe it was just an enjoyable journey. But sometimes those are the bits and pieces that later inform a solution that I don't yet have a problem for it to be part of. And so I'm a collector of random bits of information. Trivial Pursuit was one of my favorite games when I was a kid. Not least of which because that was the big family gathering after dinner event. But that those things that you siege yourself with over time end up being a part and piece of your solution when you're in need of it. So I allow myself the luxury of following my curiosity, knowing that it might not come to fruition now, but it will down the road.
Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you.
Emily, had you given any thought? Do you want to share it all, or feel free not to?
Mine is just doing something with my hands. It can be, I love art, so it can be something like that. It could be repainting a room in my house. It could be, I don't know, just anytime I'm doing something with my hands, I feel like it lets my brain just do all the work and kind of go off on a tangent.
I love it. And there, you just proved it. Two completely different answers to the same question. That's what we get every show, which is, I don't know if you could tell that we really enjoy doing this show or not, but it's the truth. And you went in on that too, Veronica. That's great. Well, you said in your show you were a former artist and you were a sculptress, so you put things together with your hands, I imagine. So I could see that very clearly.
So I know we're almost up on time, so we just want to, invite all of you to connect with us if you have an interest in being a guest or as Kristen rightly said, want to refer us to someone who you think would be a great podcast guest, please let us know. We're happy to share this deck with you, and we ask that you connect with us. And we want to connect with the alums and others who are creativity thinkers and change agents.
And any questions that you have left from what we've gone through today?
I don't have questions so much as well. I don't want to preempt. It's thank you for doing this. I've just been for me. I would say, having it's very therapeutic. I think about the metacognition piece. We're some for me. I'm so busy doing that I had never really spent the time to talk about the craft the way in the conversation with the two of you, and it brought up things that I really hadn't necessarily thought about to the extent.
That's cool.
And I think a lot of
Thank
people
you.
have sort of said the same thing about kind of being heard too. I think there's a piece.
Well,
Thank you.
and I'll go into just a bit more detail than Kim in the history, in that I really was looking for a way to energize our international community. I was saying like, gosh, there's doers and people from all over the world. Why wouldn't we want to get together and talk to each other on a more regular basis? And there was a lot of yes, maybe interest, but when it went past maybe. Not much raised their hand to want to really get into the structural stuff of it. But when the dust cleared, it was Kim and I really just looking at each other, and Kim saying, I've always really wanted to do a podcast. And I said, I'll do that with you. And this is the best we've come up with as far as pulling inf pieces of life out of our community to put it into the forever internet, which like I said, 57 episodes and still going strong. I got a post-it in front of me that has pretty much the rest of the year mapped out of people that want to be on the show. So,
Have you
um,
interviewed Sue Parnes and Bill? Um,
pardon?
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah.
we
Yes, we
did
did.
Sue and Bill, and then
Yeah,
just
it's a
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
do. Yeah.
when we hit,
nice
we
episode.
sort of departed from our format as sort of a tribute when we hit episodes 50 and 51, and we looked to our founders. So on episode 50, we had Alex's grandson, John Osborne, which was a lovely story, and who brought up some like personal, like at Alex's knee type of history stories. And then we had Sue Parnes and Bill Hartwell, and Sue is B and Sid's daughter. And she told great stories about how things happened around the dinner table and how she translated creativity into her being a lifelong swimming coach and all that sort of stuff. So it was just great. And Kim actually does need to leave immediately.
Right.
I'll stay on if anybody
All
wants to
right.
stay on and
Thank you,
chat further,
Thanks
but
for
everybody.
doing this, Kim.
Oh, so happy you're all part of the community. I'm proud to be part of it.
thanks
Bye.
to all who joined us. I'm here if you want to chat any further, but otherwise, that's all we got today. Thank you.
Thank you both for hosting this. Hearing how people think is just, always so fascinating. And, the idea that, there's no right way to do it, or there's the general consensus, and then you really dig into things and not so much. So it's always a joy to hear how other people are using their creative powers in different areas of their lives. I'm looking forward to
Please,
digging into your podcast.
yeah, please go to the site for the podcast. It's on
Mhm.
Spotify, on Apple, wherever you
Yeah,
find
I
them.
added you to my podcast
Super.
list.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you could just dial it in while you're driving, or
Mhm.
you got a free 30 minutes, and it'll do just what you said it will. It will give you
Mhm.
that sort of peek into the brains of our community in a very personal and actionable way.
Do you follow Keith Sawyer's work and his
No,
podcast?
what's the name? Keith?
Keith Sawyer.
And I've read some of his work, but I didn't realize he had a podcast.
He does. He speaks with people across the creativity network.